Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in the world, whatever time zone you're in. Thank you for watching or coming back wherever you're at. So this is one of our career videos we're doing today. We try and do at least one of these once a week. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Talking about some questions to ask before you accept a job, and this might be before or after or during the interview. So I'm going to go off the screen here like I normally do. I appreciate everybody. Please come back. Please subscribe. All that jazz. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk about 5 questions to ask before accepting a job. These are questions if you go on an interview. Some of them are questions to consider yourself. If you're looking for a job right now, here's the question I want you to answer. And this is assuming you have the interview and you meet all the people you're going to be working with. Can you imagine yourself in this company? You really won't know this unless you already do the interview. You're not going to, sometimes you can tell by looking at the paperwork ahead of time to see the job or look at the job description, but a lot of times you'll have to do the interview to see if you really can imagine yourself in this company. Do you want to work on a team that collaborates powerfully, makes decisions quickly, and is able to adapt to change? Do you want to feel comfortable bringing yourself to work? Are you looking for a company that promotes innovation while giving you a space to fail, to make mistakes? Or are you going to lose your job if you make one mistake? As a potential employee, you may spend a lot of time thinking about your roles and responsibilities. However, the factor that you will want to determine your experience in a new job is that company culture. At its best, the culture is an organization's unseen competitive advantage that sets it apart. The culture refers to the values, the expectations, the beliefs, the behavior, language, systems, and practices of that organization. And it'll give you a glimpse into how the work gets done there. Simply put, the company culture reflects how you want to be treated as an employee. So there was a McCrindle study done that commissioned 1,000 managers in Australia, revealed that a healthy culture is one that fosters inclusion, diversity, belongingness, and psychological safety. It could be different for you. You know, the same study also revealed the factors that kill a company culture is a lack of trust among team members as the most common reason for a breakdown. And some of the factors include negativity from team members or leaders, absent or disconnected leaders, workload expectation, lack of accountability, like one person is doing all the work and nobody else is doing anything else. This is why understanding the culture could be very important when you are taking on a new role. So a lot of these interview questions, they are asking you a lot of questions. However, when you get to the end, you want to ask 3 good questions of them, so that you can get an idea if you want to work for them. Not if they want you, but do you want to work for them? How do you figure it out? You got to ask the right questions. Now, you want to go overboard with these questions. Sometimes you can figure out these things just by doing the interview and talking to the people that are asking the questions. Believe me, I have done so many interviews. I've done about a little over 50 in the last 7 years. And so I can tell you about some of these interviews. And a lot of these interviews, I don't want to work for them after I do the interview. I can see that one person has a control issue in there. They're not letting nobody else answer the questions or make any decisions. Those type of environments, I can tell a lot from doing an interview and whether I want to work with someone or not. Just by doing these interviews, virtually or non-virtually, even by going in there. So if we have a bunch of control freaks at the front and they're not letting other team members make decisions or ask questions or anything, where they're just sitting there and they're afraid of their supervisor, well, this is not a place that I personally want to work. I can usually pick this up by doing the interview, but maybe it could be from my experience in doing it. But hopefully you will be able to figure it out yourself too. And if you can't, I'm going to give you some questions that you might want to ask if you can't figure it out just by doing the interview. Now, the first one would be, you only want to ask 3 out of these 5, okay? I know there's several YouTube videos out there with a lot of other good ones, and that's fine. But if you're trying to figure out your culture, these would be some good ones. So, how would your team members describe their relationship with one another? So, the lack of trust is seen as one of the most important factors for an unhealthy work culture. You know, when trust is absent, team members are less likely to speak candidly. And this also goes for control freaks too. They are less likely to speak candidly. They're afraid to make mistakes, collaborate. You'll be able to tell this by the interview if one person is basically asking all the questions. Nobody else is allowed to do anything unless they're told. They're afraid to ask anything. They're reading strictly off of paper. A lot of these types of things, if one person is controlling the interview, that gives you an idea of what kind of environment you're going to be working in. And do you really want to work with a bunch of control freaks? I mean, I personally do not, but, you want to work with a supervisor that's going to include you and treat everybody like we're on a team, and not like one person is the dictator over everybody else. But that's just me. So you have to figure it out. Maybe you do like that type of thing. So asking that question will show you how people work with one another and whether they have trusting relationships. Pay attention to how the manager describes their dynamics with the team. Do they describe their relationship as dependable, honest, and caring? Or are people afraid to share their ideas because they're afraid they're going to lose their job or get judged? Or, if the manager seems flustered when somebody else asks. All these types of things are red flags that you should be looking for when you do your interview. Now, how do people give each other feedback on this team is another one of the things, like I've just been talking about. You should be able to pick this up on your interview. If the work environment, if everybody is working together, everybody's comfortable, I usually can pick it up. If people are afraid of talking, if they're just reading like off of a piece of paper and they're afraid to do anything like without being fired or judged, or the manager is going to come after them. Any of these types of things where you pick up there's a control problem, that might be a sign that this is not the place for you to work, because you want a team environment if possible, and an open and honest work environment where people don't have to fear losing their job every time they make a move. So seek to understand the process on the team for raising your concerns. Look for themes that stand out. Look for defensive and deflective. Look for patterns in the conversation. Does the manager navigate everything in the conversation? Is the manager asking other people on the team questions? Are they letting them give feedback? All these types of things. Or is one person dominating the entire interview? When did you have to deliver feedback? How was it received? These types of things are another type of good question to ask. Okay, another one is, how often do you see and hear the senior leaders of the business? The leadership of the business is responsible for communicating and living these values. If you're looking for strong leadership and clarity in the vision, you want to see how the leadership team communicates. If they barely tell anybody what's going on, that might not be your work culture you want to be in. Your goal should be to clarify how open the communication is in the company. Do they attend meetings? Do they make themselves visible? Do they have webinars? Are they communicating on a website to everybody, where everybody can give feedback, like on Team, like on a SharePoint site where you have Microsoft Team on there, and everybody can give feedback, and they're not going to be criticized for giving feedback or asking questions. You don't want to work in an environment where you are afraid to ask questions without being criticized. Some of the other ones that I've seen on YouTube videos are, where do you see the business in 5 years? This is a really good one. And I had one person, one manager answer it like awesomely. She said, wherever the team that you're going to be on in the future, it takes it, is how she answered that question, which I thought was pretty cool. She said, because you guys are going to be in charge of where you want to be in 5 years. I thought that was one of the best answers to that question, because I usually ask that question. Where, unless they already answer it, you don't want to repeat it. So these are just some things that on the interviews. Okay, so another one would be, how do you measure success on the team? So that's a pretty good one too. And or what are your first 30 days going to be like? You don't want to ask all of these questions. You want to pick out 3. That's it. Because you want the interview to end at some point. Now me, I could go on all day and ask them questions like they asked me, but realistically, you don't want to do too many. You want to show enthusiasm that you want the job, but you don't want to overdo it. So try to understand if the responsibilities of your role are clear. And if they tell you something that you might not want to do, then you'll know if this is not the job for you. Do you understand why your work matters to the organization? Are the expectations attainable? How are people recognized and rewarded? What happens when people fall short of an expectation? And these are all things, you don't want to ask all these questions, but these are good questions to keep in your mind when you're doing this interview. If you ask this one question right here, a lot of these other things should be answered. People are recognized and rewarded. They might tell you that, how they measure success. You can follow up with some other questions like how do you set expectations or goals for the team members? How is the work delegated? What would success look like for this specific role? What would your career growth look like on this role? Now, this next one, I don't know that I would ask it because it seems like it would be kind of long, but it's up to you. It is a good one to ask. It's an example of a recent project the team worked on. I mean, this is the kind of questions they ask us or ask me on my interviews. So you're basically just reversing the interview. So not only are they interviewing you, you are interviewing them. You're trying to find out if this is going to be a good fit for you, because it might not be. Even though I understand you might need a job, you're desperate and you need money. Best thing to do is not to get into a place that you're going to be miserable for the next 5 to 10 years. So when choosing an organization, it's important that you get a sense of how these teams work together, how they handle mistakes and failures, what kind of manager you're going to have. Are you going to have a team leader, or are you going to have a boss? Are you going to have like a coach and motivator, or are you going to have somebody that directs you around for everything you do? It depends on what kind of leadership that you like and that you are comfortable with. Some people in the military prefer people that direct them around with every order, because that's what they've grown up to know and they're used to it. They like being told every little thing to do. That way they're not accountable for their mistakes. The supervisor is. But not all of us like that kind of leadership. So you need to pay special attention to how your leader talks and how the work gets done on the team. Because when you're working on a project, you need to have clear and attainable goals. You need to make sure everybody's accountable on the team for something, that they appreciate each other and the contributions of all the members. You need to find out the manager's job is to find out who is good at what and what they are good at, what they are capable of, and if your manager is going to help you, if you are deficient in some area, move up. So you can keep the conversation going if you want, like, what words describe the team? What does the team need the most right now? You can use this question here to transition the conversation to example of some recent projects, and these recent projects will give you an idea of what you're going to be doing every day. You need to know how to ask. Asking questions gives you a glimpse into the future of what this job that you might be getting will be like. And so hopefully this helped somebody. And hopefully you all stayed to the end. The ones who stay to the end on my videos, of course, gain the most knowledge. And that is the goal, to learn the game, right? Learn the game of interviewing. I appreciate everybody. Thank you for listening and watching.